Hi everybody, this is Oksana, and this little froggy here wants to say a big thank you to Rio Grande for sponsoring this video. As you know, I love and use their wire for all my projects, and I also love their other supplies such as beads and tools and polishing pads. Lots of other goodies I get from their website. And so today we're going to make this fun little frog, and then also I'm going to tell you at the end how I did this slightly differently, just different stone position, different bend in the mouth, and I get this little guy that kind of looks like a toad. So if you want to see how to make this fun little frog, just keep watching. My wire is 20 gauge square dead soft copper. It looks like this. This spool is from riogrande.com, and you need 3 pieces of this wire. And these are a bit longer than you need, but they are 12 inches. And the reason they are longer is because one of the wires for this design has to be longer than the rest. The rest can be quite short, but I think it's pretty difficult to cut your wires all different sizes and then line them up so it all lines up perfectly. And you know, the longer wires in the right place, it's like the right distancing. I think that just makes it all very complicated and makes the design a lot more difficult. As you get advanced, you can do that. You can measure out your wires and keep track of, if this is the center, this wire is this length, the next one is, different length. Sometimes I do that when I'm working with precious metals, and I actually draw it out on a piece of paper. Like I actually draw the wire and I write, where each wire needs to be cut and where they all line up in the middle. But for this purpose, this is just copper wire, which is more affordable, and we're just going to do the same length, grab it in the middle here, and then use this 24 gauge half round wire. And we are going to wrap it around the middle portion. We're going to put the flat side down and the half rounded side up. It's really hard to see on such a thin wire, but it's rounded on one side, and then you can see this other side. The underside here is flat, so I just grab a little wire end and I start wrapping it around. If you run out of your wire end, if you had a shorter one, what you could do is just wrap with this length that's still connected to the spool, but in this case you would have to guide it with one hand, like I'm guiding it here with these fingers, and then turn the 3 wires like this, because otherwise, if it's still connected to the spool, it will get twisted. So this is the way to do it. And I'm just doing this for a little bit. This is plenty long, and the wires are very well connected at this point. So I'm just going to grab my wire cutters. Today I'm using my wire cutters from Swanstrom Tools. These are from riogrande.com, and the pliers as well. These came in a set, but they are also sold separately. So I'm just going to trim so that my wire ends are all here on this side. And then I'm going to press down on that with my pliers, like this. And you can see my wire ends there. So that is the side that's going to be touching my stone, so that it is going to hide the wire ends. This is my stone. It is, I believe it's a howlite that has been dyed. It could even be a synthetic stone. I'm not sure. I was just looking through my stash to see what would work best for this design in terms of shape and color, and I wanted to find a more green one, but I couldn't find one that was a good size and shape. So this one's a little bit more blue than the green color that I wanted, but I thought it would still work really well. So it's a smidge over an inch or if you are measuring in millimeters, it's probably about 27, 28 millimeters, and it is an oval. Ovals work best for this design. You could also use a round stone as well, and we're going to be positioning it like this. It's good if it's not one of those like really long skinny ovals. It's good if it's like a more rounded oval like this. So we're just going to be taking our wire here with the wire ends, and we're going to be putting that kind of in the middle of our stone, and just places down on a table or a flat surface, and then we're going to be bending the wires around the stone, and we're going to have them meet up here at the top. So I'm just putting little curves in them so that I can kind of bring them together, and then we're just gonna put little bends with our fingers and then just kind of move the wire side to side, just like bend it side to side, and that sharpens up the bends, brings the wire closer together. Let's see, that is looking good. It's looking centered, and there's a small gap above the stone, but it's not a very huge gap. This is what you want. If you have a very large gap above the stone, it's just going to give you a different look. So after we've done that, we can reinforce these bends and make them a little sharper by using our pliers. Here's a difference between when I did it by hand versus with pliers. All right, and then once you do that, just want to make sure they are lined up and stacked together nicely. So you have 3 wires on one side and 3 on the other. You don't want any of them to be crisscrossing, or because it's square wire, you want the flat side of the square to go here. If it's starting to twist and you're getting the corner of the square, you can just put it back with your pliers to keep it lined up nicely like this. So now we're just taking our half round wire again, and we are wrapping around all 6 of these wires. So you have 3 wires on one side, 3 on the other side, and they're coming together to form 6 wires. So I'm just wrapping around about 5 times, then I am taking the little wire end, pulling it through the middle here from back to front. You can pull on it with your pliers to ensure it's nice and tight, and then we're just going to trim that right up against the wire so that it's a very short little wire end, and then we can just kind of push on that little wire end to get it flat. It's going to get covered up, this area anyways. So here is what that is looking like. So now we're going to take the frontmost 2 wires. We're going to separate them out by pulling them forward here. And we're going to take our wire and we're going to wrap it. It's still connected to my spool. Just going to wrap it around, but because it's connected to my spool, I have to guide it with one hand and then just turn the whole piece. So the wire itself, I'm not wrapping it around and around, it's getting wrapped due to this piece turning. So this is going to be our bail, and about 3/4 inch is a good length, I find, for my bails, but feel free to make yours shorter or longer if you wish. So I'm just going to do just this for a little bit longer until it gets to be about 3/4 inches tall. And now we're just going to trim it so that the little end of the wire is here on the inside, not on the front. And we're going to press down that wire end, and we're just going to press down on that whole bail. So this whole entire wrap, we're just going to press down on that like this. And now we're just going to put our stone in. And so here on the back, we're going to grab the backmost wire. We're going to do this on each side, just bending it like this onto the stone. And now on the other side as well, bending it onto the stone like this. The stone is not locked in yet from the front, but from the back it's locked, so I'm just gonna do a little longer here. There we go, perfect. So the back is trapped. If you can kind of see this backmost wire, I'm just gonna push it down a little bit. There we go. And from the front, make sure this little bit is centered. If it's a little longer, you can try to push it, or you can just unravel it and trim it if it just needs the littlest bit trimmed off. So I'm just raising the wires up with my fingers here, and that allows me to get in here with my pliers. I go right up against that wrap and I just turn my hand just this way, and it makes a nice little bend in the wire, and I'm gonna do that on the other side as well. So now I'm gonna flip it over to the back, and I'm gonna take these backmost wires and I'm gonna put a little bit of a curve in them, but not a big one. I'm only doing this because this helps me bend them down. I want to bend them down, and I want them to be like really tied up against this other wrap. I don't want there to be a gap here. So I'm just going to bring them together this way as well, and just keep working on bringing them down. When I have them to where I feel like this is the best I can do by hand, then I'm going to make sure that they're together this way. And with my pliers, I'm going to try and push them further to close up that little gap. And then again this way. Alright, so you can see barely any gap pushed down, so I'm going to leave them going straight down. So now we're going to trim off these middle wires here. So I'm going to come in here with my wire cutters, and I'm going to cut them very, very short. You can almost not see the little ends of them. That's the point, is that they're hidden. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my pliers and I'm just going to kind of press on them and squish them the way that my pliers are slipping. That's good actually, because it's just like squishing the little ends of the wires and rounding them off, pressing them together. It's going to lessen the chances of them moving out of this spot. You can kind of push them this way as well. So now we have got rid of them. They're pretty hidden away. They don't have sharp edges because that's what I'm doing with my pliers. I'm kind of rounding off the sharp edges. Not that you'd be able to feel them, because this is going to be inside of the bail, so you won't be able to like put your finger in there and feel them. So now I'm going to do the bail, and the bail is going to also be the eyes. So I'm just curving this for my bail, and now before I finish the curve, so there's two wires, one on each side, and we're going to put them through, let me show you where, this little hole and then this little hole on the other side. So just on their respective sides, they're going to go through these holes, and then because you have these wires here going down the middle, so just pull them through. You can kind of help them along with your pliers, and we're just gonna curve my bail all the way down, pressing it down. The bail is a nice shape. It has been formed. Here it is from the back, and in the front we have these two wires sticking out, one wire per side. So what I'm gonna do now is you can take a little cloth or you can do it with your fingers. I'm trying to just straighten out these wires because when you were putting them through, they could have formed some bends and some kinks in them, as you can see in this wire, and this one I have straightened. So I find that it's easy enough for me to just kind of run it through my fingers like this, just kind of curving it in one direction and then in the other direction. But if this hurts your fingers, get a cloth to do this with. Fingers are dirty now from doing that. All right, so this next part, and this is a difficult part, because we're trying to make, so bend these up, have them be even, so they're going up, you know, one isn't like down here, they're in the same sort of location. And we're gonna try to make eyes that are the same shape and size, which is always tricky. So I'm just curving this in the shape of a circle, like this. So it's just curving all the way around. And I'm continuing with this. So feel free to make your circles a little bigger or a little smaller if you feel the need. Another thing that matters is we're going to put a little bead inside of the eye for the pupil. So just see what works best in terms of size with your bead. So this is one eye, and now I'm just going to try to make a similar second eye. You can try using some kind of tool to help you make the circle, but honestly, because this is all just so close together, I find it difficult to get anything in there, and I just find it easier to do with my hand. But you could use your pliers to just kind of like maybe move things a little bit, maybe like if you need to squish this down or something because it's too wide. All right, so this eye is looking smaller. So I'm just, here's where my pliers can come in handy to just open this back up a little bit. All right, I think now I've made it bigger because I'm trying so hard to make it larger. I made it too large. All right, so I think that's good. They look pretty symmetrical. This is probably as good as I'm going to be able to do. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to press down on it so that it does not move, and I'm going to push this wire from front to back, and then here on the back I'm going to push it down like this. All right, now I'm going to see, did that change the shape or size? Nope. Still think this one's just a smidge bigger. And now I'm going to hold this, take this wire, push it down, all the way down here on the back. Still looking good from the front. So what we're going to do here on the back is we are going to trim these wires, but we're going to leave a little end like this so that we can tuck it away. So just like that. And we're going to come in here with our pliers. We're going to grab that little wire end. We're going to just turn it inwards, and then we're going to press down on it like this. So it's connected the wire and also hidden the wire end. And now we're going to do that on this other side. All right, so curve that so it's going into the gap, and then press down on it. I think I need to hold it this way. There we go. Just pressing down on that. And let's hope our eyes are still looking good. All right, perfect. So what we're gonna do now, before we finish off the eyes by making the pupils, is we're going to finish off these two wires. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm gonna take one wire, honestly doesn't really matter which, and this is gonna be my leftmost wire, and I'm gonna trim it short, not super short, go ahead and watch what I'm going to do with it, and that's going to help you determine how short to cut it. So I'm going to take this little wire end and I'm going to just kind of turn it upwards like this, because my goal here is to hide the wire end. I don't want it getting caught on anything. I want it out of the way. All right, so I have gotten rid of that wire end. You can't feel it, it's not sticking up, but that's why you need a little wire end. If you cut it too short, you wouldn't be able to turn it like this. All right, so that's just our way of getting rid of it. Now with this wire here, I'm going to curve it, and we want it to go in the middle of our stone here. This is going to be our mouth. All right, so it's going across. We're bending it around this edge, and then we're bending it across the front like this. So now we're going to shape our mouth. So you could leave it straight across like this, or you can put a little bend in it. So I'm going to put a little bend in it, trying to gauge the middle of the wire. And I'm going to bend it just a little bit in this direction, and then I'm going to come on to the other side and bend it some more. All right, so sometimes it helps to just finish this wire by bending it all the way around. That way it's not in the way, and you can kind of see better where this is going to go, and then you can work on bending the other side here. Alright, so once you're happy with the way that it looks, we're going to go ahead and secure this wire here on the back. And the way we're going to do that is first we're going to bend it down, and then we're going to have it come this way to this other wire. And once it reaches the other wire, we're going to put a little curve in it, like this. And feel free to use round nose pliers if you have them. I'm going to just trim that, and I'm going to make a little loop. So you can make a loop if you don't need it to be perfectly round. You can make it with just regular pliers as well, or you can use round nose pliers if you prefer. So I'm just taking the wire end and I'm just curving it upwards like this, and it creates a little loop. Now I'm going to take a little piece of this half round wire. This is probably about 4 inches long or so. Yep, exactly 4 inches, good guess. And I'm going to put this underneath both wires. So this wire here as well as the wire with the loop. Okay, just like this. It's going underneath them both. And now I'm going to take it and I'm going to put it through the loop and underneath this wire here. Like this. I'm going to tighten it up by pulling on it. And I'm going to do that one more time to create a second little loop right next to it there. And now I'm going to just wrap it around just this single wire a few times. Until I start getting close to this other wire there. So I think just one more wrap and then I'm close enough. So now I'm going to put this underneath the bottommost wire. So you might have to grab that wire with your pliers and just kind of pull it forward a little bit to create a gap. And once you do that, you can slide your half round wire underneath. Here it is, going underneath. So now, one more time, I have wrapped around both wires, and by doing that, I have connected this wire to this wire. So now I don't have to worry about this moving because it's been connected. And I'm going to wrap just around this single wire a few times so that my wire is finished off and secure before I cut it. I might not even have to cut it, it's so short. So about 3 to 4 times should be adequate. And now you can just trim it, and now we're just going to tuck away that little wire end like this. So now we have this wire here. Just going to bring it this way, and you can either wrap it around this wire or this wire, whatever is the easiest for you, wherever it is the closest to and wherever you can get it under, really, because the only point of this is just to wrap it a few times so that it is secure and it's not going to unravel. And then we're going to also just trim and tuck away the wire end. All right, so that seems good. Now we're going to trim and tuck away that little wire end there. And that secures this wire that is the mouth. If you find that it moves here on this side, mine isn't really moving, but you can also make a connection here with some half round wire. You can put it underneath both of these wires and wrap it around, kind of like we did here, and that's going to prevent any movement on this side. And now it's time to do the eyes. So I'm grabbing another piece of my half round wire, and this is 5 inches long, and I'm just putting it through one eye and out the other. If you're having trouble getting it to come out the other eye, it's just going underneath it. Try just putting a little curve like this into your wire. That way it kind of curves upwards and just pops out the other side. So you want to roughly find the middle of your wire and line it up here with the middle of the eyes. Now we're going to take one side of the wire and we're going to wrap it around this little edge of the eye. So we're putting it through the eye. It's going like this, and I'm just tightening it up. You have to kind of hold it well on the other side also because it can move out of place. So I'm just tightening up, and what's happened is a little wrap got formed here. And now I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Just like this. Again, you can kind of curve it if you're having trouble having it go through. All right, so just like this, and I just kind of do it slowly. Sometimes when you pull hard, it gets all discombobulated. So I'm just slowly making that loop and tightening it up, and there it is, connected here and here. So now I'm actually going to put this wire, I guess I should have just left it on that side, but I'm going to put it through. I just realized I want it to be here on this side of the eye, like this. That way when I put my bead on, I can just wrap it around this way. So what you do in that case, instead of just taking the wire end and tucking it through, I like to just kind of curve it like this, put it through, and then just pull it out. So now you want to find some beads that will work for you. I have these little black round beads. They seem to be a good size. So I'm just going to take the bead, slide it on. I do have to get it under here. So what you might have to do is lift this up a little bit until your bead can fit through. Like that. And then you can just push it back down. And if your wire got twisted here, just make sure the flat edge is facing you, so that when we wrap it, we're going to wrap it this way. We're going to put it right in this gap. Don't put it underneath, put it above, like that. And I'm just going to tighten up this little loop. And there we go, we have attached our first little eyeball. So now you just want to keep going with this until you have pretty much run out of wire. If you want it to be just like perfectly symmetrical, you can count how many wraps you do so that you can do the same amount on the other side, or you can just eyeball it to see if it looks similar. So I'll finish that up in a sec. I'm just going to pop on my other bead here. Oh, and this one I didn't have to lift up. It just sort of worked out. So I'm going to put it here above where the wire is, and I'm just going to tighten up that loop. And now you're just going to wrap this around as well, just like on the other side, and just see how long you can do this on each side until you run out of wire. I do recommend doing this for quite a bit more than just a few wraps, because that'll really secure the eyes. So once you wrap this for a while and you feel like you got it symmetrical on both eyes, so you just trim it and you leave yourself a little wire end. I'm just going to do this side as well. This one I almost don't have to trim at all, it's so short. And then we're just going to take that little wire end, we're going to curve it downwards so it kind of continues wrapping around that wire. And then we're just going to press it down and then just kind of push it in there so it continues the wrap, but the wire end ends up being on the inside. And I'm just doing the same thing here on this other side. Push it in there, and they're hidden away. Make sure that they are not sticking out the other side. They're very short, so these are not. And that is it. Now he is completed. You could mess around some more with the mouth if you wanted to. I feel like I just wanted to get mine maybe a smidge lower. I think I like that better. And that's it. Here is also the little toad. By comparison, I bent his mouth upwards. I used an oval position this way instead of sideways, and then instead of trimming off these little wires here, like we did in there, I only trimmed off one of them, and the other one I made this kind of little curly thing. So that's another look that you can get with this design. This one looks more like a toad, and this one looks more like a frog. So I hope that you've enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.